Hi, welcome back to my kitchen. We are not cooking today. Today we are going to get a little glimpse into the thread side of Susan by a Thread. If you are a customer of my Etsy shop, or if you visited my Etsy shop, you've seen that I do make and sell lace products, among other things there. And sometimes with use, a lace product, a doily, a handkerchief, a bookmark, can need a little care. Maybe it gets a little dirty, gets a little wrinkled, or whatever. So I'm going to show you how to take care of your lace. As part of the lace making process, the last step that I do after I finish making the lace is to wash and block and press the lace before I send it out to my customers. So let's do that. I'm going to take you through that process so you can take care of your lace at home. So the first thing we're going to do is a couple of bowls of water. Just warm water, doesn't need to be hot or cold. A little bit of warm water. Okay, you can see that I have two bowls of water. I'm going to add just a couple of drops of a mild soap. Turn it around a little bit. We don't want it too sudsy, but we do want it to be able to pick up any soil that might be on our lace. Okay, and then I'm going to place my lace into the soapy water. Try to be as gentle as possible. So I'm just going to move it around in there. I'm not going to squeeze it or wring it out. Just going to, and you can let it sit in there for a few minutes if you want to. Switch it around a little bit more. Okay, and then again, I'm not gonna wring it out. I'm not gonna squeeze it. I'm gonna move it right straight to the rinse water. Rinse all the soap out. You can go one more time. Get a little more water here. Just rinse it out. Okay, I'm going to put my wet lace right in the middle of the towel. Just a tea towel, dish towel, hand towel, doesn't matter what. Just lay it out there. And then we're going to fold this over. I'm not folding the lace, I'm just folding the towel over the lace. And then I'm going to roll up the towel. And just let that towel soak up as much of the liquid as I can. I don't want to tear the lace or damage any of the knots or joints in the lace. So being as gentle as I can, I'm just soaking up that water. Okay, that is pretty good. Now we're going to move on to the blocking step. Okay, now we're going to do the blocking step. I've got a quilter's iron press, blocking press mat here, but you don't have to use. If you don't have one, you can just use a towel, a couple layers of towels, something that you can pin into, because we're going to just one piece at a time, just gently pin it into the shape that we want it to be in when it's dry. See how I'm just stretching it a little bit, not trying to stretch it out of shape. I just want it to be in shape, and sometimes just to get all the pieces, the parts and pieces evenly stretched apart, you gotta move it just a little bit. But in each of these sections of the center circle, I'm just using my pins to move it and hold it into place. One more. Nope, that's all of the middle circles. Okay, then there's a second ring of loops on the outside. I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm just going to work my way out from the center with each loop. You can see up here, this area that needs a little shaping, doesn't it? We're going to do that, but we're going to do it one section at a time. So I'm going to work my way around the second row here. because not quite the right shape. So there we go. Stick my pin in there. So when you buy lace, it comes already blocked like this. And it's not something, unless it becomes soiled, it's not something that you really need to do a lot of washing on. And I would recommend not, unless it does become soiled, or if it becomes just way out of shape to the point where you need to get it wet. And then in that case, then yes, we want to totally reshape and reblock. I use 100% cotton thread. So if you've ever owned an item of clothing or garment that is 100% cotton, you know that oftentimes when it gets wet, you're gonna have to iron it, or somebody's gonna have to iron it, or it's never gonna be quite like it was before. And that's the same thing with lace. Okay, now I've finished that row. I'm gonna move on to the next section of these loops. It doesn't hurt to go opposites, just to make sure that you've got things evenly spaced apart. So I'm going to go to the opposite side here and I'm going to use my fingers to get this loop organized here. It's a little bit crumpled up. And in this case, it's a little crumpled up because this is the post padding blocking. So I just finished making this, and this is the first time it's ever being shaped. So maybe if you're just doing a wash on yours, you won't have quite as much reshaping to do. But if you do, just take your time, be patient, line those loops up the way you want them to be. And then you won't have to do that again for hopefully a long time or ever. So, and I'm just using quilting pins here. You can use any pins that you have, straight pins. I just have a lot of quilting pins, so that's what I generally use. But if you just have a box of straight pins that came in a sewing kit, that will do just fine for this job. Okay, this is the last one in this row. Okay, and we just keep moving out to the next one, to the next loop. We'll put it into shape and pin it down. Back to the opposite side. Line it up in the shape I want. Pin it down. I'll just keep working my way all the way around. Even if the pins want to be stubborn. Okay, take that round. Okay, and then this next one is, now we're getting into some complicated stuff. And sometimes you might want to just start now. Let's just go on to the outside and let's start doing these. And then we'll see what we need to line up in middle of that complicated row there. And really this one very complicated row I'm working on is actually just one row. Well, maybe it's two. It's two rows. You've got this row here, and then these last series on the outside is another row. Now I'm not really stretching. I'm just laying it out where it belongs, okay? Just stretch, don't stretch it, just place things where they should be, lined up the way they should be. Okay, and then can you see on this one where the picos are kind of bent in, so I need to get those twisted back to the outside. They just are a little twisted up. Just get all the picos on the outside. Those little loops here, those are called picos. Got those all where they need to be. Bring that one down. I don't think I'm gonna have to do much, if any, pinning in between, even though there's a lot of little loops in there. For the most part, just getting this outside done is laying them down the way they should be. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. Maybe just a couple places where I'm going to want to go in and make sure things are smooth and rounded the way they should be. But I'm feeling pretty good about that. If your piece is still quite wet, you may want to let it air dry for a little while. And you can do that regardless. If it's pretty close to dry, which this actually is pretty close to dry, we can go ahead and press. Well, let's just make sure everything is, one last look, make sure everything's where I want it to be, and it pretty much is. So I'm going to take an iron, no steam, I don't have any steam, I just have a hot iron, and I'm going to start from one place. I'm going to move my pin cushion over so I can pick up my pins, and I'm just going to press right there because I know that those are all, everything within the range of that pin is where it should be, and then take out the next pin and press. Notice I'm not ironing, I'm just pressing very gently. Everything is in place where I want it to be, so I don't want to move it around too much and mess that up. If you do find a place that's not quite where you want it, now's the time to adjust it. I'm gonna venture into the center here, make sure these are lined up well. And then just one at a time, I'm taking out the next pin and the next one, and I'm just pressing. And because we didn't stretch, we didn't pull and stretch on this, we don't have to worry about things snapping back into the wrong place when we take out the pins, because the pins are And we used the pins to line them up. They dried a little bit and they're just staying where they belong. But if we had really stretched, as soon as we pulled out the pin, they might try to snap back into the wrong place. Just keep going around. Pay attention to each place where you're setting the iron, and if you see something out of place, try to catch it before you set the iron down. It's not the end of the world if you press it down wrong. You can just fix it and press again. But I do try as I'm going to catch those things. This is tatted lace. Tatting is a very old method. Well, not too old. There are others. Bobbin lace is older, but tatting was popular in the 1800s. It kind of fell out of popularity when we developed machine technology to mass produce lace for the garment industry. So there was less need and less desire for tatting. But today, it's still around. It's a pretty rare skill. You're not going to run into too many people who know how to do tatting, but if you have the time and the inclination, it's definitely worth learning how. And if you like, you can use some spray starch and just give it a little bit of starch. You don't want to do too much. I mean, your inclination is that if you use too much starch, it's going to be stiff as a board, which may be true, but I also have found that the starch kind of collects and kind of flakes on the thread if you use too much. But a little bit of starch won't hurt it. Okay, and then that's done. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? It's a little bit stuck to my board because I have used starch on this board, so reheating kind of must have activated a little bit of the starch, but it releases pretty well. And here we go. All done. And that should be good for a long time, unless something happens where it gets shoved in a drawer or crumpled up or something spills on it. You should be good for a long time with this shaping. Thanks for watching, and come back and visit soon. I'll put a link in the description to my Etsy shop if you're interested in looking at some more lace or some of the other things that are there.